Well, now you have different customs getting together, different people getting together, and with this newfound knowledge, when the Europeans came over, they got scared shitless. It was so new because when the Dark Ages came along, they were told that all this that we know on this side was wrong. Whoever practiced the ability to go outside themselves, speaking spiritually to other beings, and able to perform things that cannot be explained by normal, what they consider regular science, was wrong. If they couldn't explain it, if they could not identify with it, they considered it wrong. Kind of funny when you consider stuff wrong when you praise people like Solomon and things like that, and people who have either performed miracles or did things that were just not the average physical components a human being with the limited knowledge without the Enlightenment was able to do. Europeans saw people rising from the dead. They saw people speaking in tongues they never knew. They saw people going in and out of trances and coming up with theories and ideas. This was very confusing to them. So they called these people primitive. They called these people barbaric. They called them savages because their oneness with the land and their lack of need for any further technology, because they learned the oneness of the land and refused to further themselves. Not all dynasties, because you had the Mayans or so that did further themselves, but you have traditions from many that refuse to further themselves technologically so they can keep one in the balance within this earth. And refusing to do so really seemed weird to the Europeans. You don't want to evolve into what we consider a greater being. So when they came over and brought over Christianity, which is a tool to teach one to humble themselves and be a servant, they started trying to afflict people with their beliefs. Tell them whatever you believe is wrong because you're actually a servant and you're supposed to serve somebody. So they inflict this knowledge on them, and they didn't go for it. A lot of natives didn't go for it. They couldn't really come over to a strange land and off the people the way they could if they were going into lands within the regions of the desert and stuff. You had vast woodlands. Plenty of places for our people to hide. We knew this place inside out. So they used biological warfare. Brought over smallpox. And people say it was placed on blankets and stuff like that. But they also don't realize that they used animals to transfer diseases. They used rats, certain insects, to be able to spread these diseases because they multiply quick and spread around a land completely faster than the human race. And not only that, they will a lot of these creatures will live longer way after human race is through. So you will still have this biological weapon still around even after the human race is disintegrated. So they inflicted smallpox on the natives of the North American region. And when they did so and started taking over, we had quite a few wars. Because you had the Spaniards, you had the French, you had Britain. All of them wanted a piece of the pie. They saw that this land was rich. They saw this land had the natural resources they were finding in Africa and Middle East and things like that. And these powerful elements and resources and things that are utilized within technology or so their greed allowed them to slaughter everyone, bring over others from other countries, have them trick them their own people, which is so sad. Because it's not just the Africans; they everybody was able to be influenced in some way because they went to Asia doing the same thing. Had them their own people, selling their own people into a slavery. And when they brought these people over, first it was the Africans before it was other nations they started bringing over for their purpose of slavery. Because the Africans' genetics were so strong. They had beings with masculine physiques and strength and ability to manage land and farm and do everything too. So they had knowledge of this earth. They were what they could considered ultimate when it comes to being able to change the mindset of the African and turn it into a servant. Now, not saying against all Europeans, because you got to remember within Europe itself was a breakdown, within each race. And people took over other people and mixed and did a lot of things before what we consider our races now from the countries that are built now have been done. Was actually just a few, very few races that came from the start. Now, over time, we had wars. The French wanted Canada, so Europeans came to the natives. We can't handle this. We need your help. They came to one of my tribes, it's the Mohican tribe, and they used us to help also get rid of their enemies. They were doing that to the Spaniards and what was formerly Mexico too. They wanted to clear out shop and start making their America. And their America had to consist with the structure that of what was being brought against when it was developed in Europe, which is called the Bavarian Illuminati. The Bavarian Illuminati was already in a society of people, including the Vatican, the Romans, the pagans, or whatever, that put themselves in what's called a social status. To put one person or put people above other people. To make one race feel inferior to another race. To make one serve another. To be able to feel as though you are your higher being. They brought this practice over to America to establish a country that be able to have that type of control. You can't go into somebody else's country and tell them what the fuck to do, but you sure enough can take their kin, their little ones, and the people of not such further knowledge and change what they should have known and teach them what you do know. So they use America as a controlled population. When they started the Bavarian Illuminati in America, that's when they officially made the Constitution. The Revolutionary War only was to break America from being completely controlled by Europe, and now the Bavarian Illuminati can now seize a piece of land and construct their own government. These 13 families that established it brought the 13 colonies. Within time, we had debates of ethics. So the next war we sought out was the Civil War. And for a lot of controversy on why the slaves were free, but the bottom line is, when it happened, it gave the ability for the Africans that were brought over here to now stand up and for themselves, not only within war, but now within rights.